The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. We are back on Monday night. We're going to ask the same question we ask every Monday night, the same question we're asking every fucking weekend at the minute, Mark, as well. What's going on? What is going on with you, mate?
This week I'm trying to work out which shop you go and buy goals from for Newcastle's front line because they can't find one.
Yeah, if you find that shop, please point Callum Wilson in that direction, mate. If you could, because yes, we're going to have a good talk about our number 9 in a minute, and it's not a great talk for him, unfortunately, but we are going to get stuck in that in a second. Just if you just joined us for the first time, a little reminder: if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. Loads of room for you on the Evermore YouTube channel with over 2,500 subscribers. We're hopefully going to get to 3,000 soon with your help. Smash the button, come and join us. All free content, 2 live shows Mondays and Wednesdays, and pop-up videos. All things Newcastle, free of charge. Mark is itching to say something. Mark, what are you saying?
I was just going to say, don't forget, if you like the video, please drop us a like on it. It does massive favours to us.
I was going to do that towards the end, mate. My God, I tell you what, if Callum Wilson was as eager as you, mate, we'd be winning games left, right, and centre.
I was going to say, to be fair, I probably shouldn't be asking people to like it at the very start because we haven't actually done anything yet. So there we go.
I'm very presumptuous. Very presumptuous of you, Mark. Very presumptuous. And we are live as always. Please jump in the comments. Let us know what you guys think about all things Newcastle. We've got loads of you in the comments already, just having a great little chinwag amongst yourself, actually, by the looks of it, which is absolutely brilliant. So great to see so many of you in there. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to get stuck right in, Mark. Let's dive straight in then. What's going on? What's going on with fucking Callum Wilson, mate? I mean, the weekend came, every single Newcastle fan, I think, even neutral fans, were thinking Eddie Howe's going to rest him. He was a passenger against Manchester United in the Cup final. He's not looked himself for months now, to be honest with you. He's been piss poor since he's come back from the World Cup, really. He's lost that kind of sharp edge that he used to have. And yet again, mate, on Saturday, a chance falls to him and he fluffs his lines, mate.
I mean, as chances go, you're in front of goal. You've got to get something better on it. And that volley, it hits the bottom of his foot. He's through the shot.
We've got it, I think, mate.
We've got it. Screams of a play that's it screams of a play that's just not in form. But he's so woefully out of form. I think it's 1 goal and 1 assist in his last 14 games. He hasn't. I think he got a goal against West Ham, didn't he? But his previous ones were against Villa, and that was back in October. So, and yes, I know there's been the World Cup since, but I mean, it's just a shocking run of form, and he doesn't even look like scoring. He had the opportunity when he went through against West Ham after he'd scored, but that was it. That is about it. And how he's not been parked already is beyond me a little bit. You see what Isaac brings to you as soon as he comes in. So it's just he needs taken out of the lineup now because I'm not sure this will end if he continues to stay in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it really is becoming a problem. I think a lot of Newcastle fans are questioning Eddie Howe's judgment on this as well. I think which is rightly so. People are talking about whether it's loyalty to the player. I know I definitely said that. Callum Wilson's been brilliant for us since he signed, even through the dark times of Steve Bruce, really, where when you couldn't rely on anything, you could rely on a constant Callum Wilson, popping up with a goal out of nothing, really. But he hasn't looked the same. I watched Craig Hope on his video, and I like what Craig's doing. He's doing a great job on YouTube, and he said that he thinks that Wilson gave everything to get in that World Cup squad, and he deserved to be on merit. He was brilliant, and he absolutely deserved to be in that squad. But it's almost like he's completely shot his load. Not sound too crude, getting in that England squad. and he hasn't been right since he come back. I mean, he picked up an injury when he was over there, or an illness or whatever it is. Loads of people are saying it's long COVID. Les is saying there, do you think he's going to start seeing a sports psychologist? Very possibly, Les. I mean, there is something definitely not right with him, but I think it's more physical than mental, because he seems to be lacking that birthmark on the shoulder that he used to have. And I think the theory of long COVID carries a bit of weight for me, because he seems to be gassed out really early, and he's not making the runs and the movement that he used to do. I mean, he spent the whole cup final trying to fight with Martinez. He spent most of Saturday trying to fight with the City centre half. I can't remember the kid's name now. But he spent the whole game trying to fight with him, really. He didn't...
Kanji.
That's it, yeah. He didn't kind of mix his game up. He was just coming, wanting to hold the ball up, wanting to suck the defender in, give a bit of a wrestle like he was trying to do against Martinez. It just didn't work again. He had no plan B, whereas, like you said, when Isak come on, he's pulling wide, he's dropping the shoulder, he's nipping inside, he's dropping deep, he's running through the middle. Isak was all over the place. He didn't just go, right, I'm going to hold the ball up and try and spin the guy. And I just think Wilson's running out of ideas. And to be honest, I'm not saying this is going to turn on Eddie Howe by any stretch, because Eddie's got so much credit in the bank, right? But sooner or later, if we don't win games and don't take chances, people are going to start asking that question more and more of Eddie Howe and say, what are you doing? Why are you playing this guy?
Yeah. Do you know what? It struck us as well before, and this is going to sound really harsh on Wilson, because I do think he's an exceptional finisher. In the last, is it 7 seasons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the last 8 seasons, he's only got 2 seasons in his league games where he scored double figures. See,
that's the question, isn't it? Is he really a main man, though? You know, if he kind of gets more than 15 goals.
Yeah, I mean, that was his first season at obviously at Newcastle, where he scored 12 in 26. 2 seasons before, he got 14 in 30. But the season before, you got 5 and 13. Granted, it's injury hit. 6 in 20, 8 in 28, 14 and 30, 8 and 35, 12 and 26, 8 and 18, and 7 and 18. So in the last 2 seasons, he's been pretty consistent in terms of goals to game ratio. But he's just, it feels like he's just completely fallen off a cliff. You think the majority of those goals were front loaded in the season. You thought, great, he's going to be on for a 20 goal season at this rate, and it's just fallen off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Les is saying there that he agrees as well. He doesn't think that Eddie's doing Wilson any favours if he continues to play him. I mean, obviously you and the guys are going to talk a bit more about Wolves on Wednesday, but I mean, he just cannot start him against Wolves. I don't know what he sees in training, but if he does not start Alexander Isak in that game, and we don't win that game, I think some people start turning on me. I really do. I think some people start grumbling and they'll start asking questions, because we're going to come on to this later, but the season's starting to tail off a little bit now. But we've got 2 games back-to-back in Wolves and Forest that are winnable fixtures for Newcastle United. You know, you've got to target 6 points there. But if Wilson has another stinker and is too slow to get to the chances, because you've said this so many times, Mark, the XG is still there. The XG is still high. And Wilson's not getting into positions, man. Like, so what is Eddie Howe seeing in this player to play in week in, week out? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of XG at the weekend, it wasn't very high. Let's be truthful. It's never going to be.
Not against them lot, mate. Fuck me, not against them lot.
Having said that, it might have been. I mean, it was 0.43, I think, the XG at the weekend. But you still had the Gordon fluffing his lines. You've got Wilson fluffing his lines.
Joelinton's on his heels with one ball.
Joelinton one. You've got the Sean Longstaff one, where he just takes too long over getting the shot away, and the defender manages to get in front of it. So it's not like Newcastle didn't have their opportunities on Saturday. They played pretty well in the main. It was one of those games where I think they probably could have played for about 6 weeks and not scored. But they had their chances, and to be fair, that high press was on view again. It pushed Man City back. It got them into areas they didn't want to be, and to a point, it works. The goals you can see. Look, I mean, Botman must be the unluckiest player in the entire universe to have 2 goals pretty much identical back-to-back weeks against teams from Manchester. It must just be a Manchester thing, to be fair. But then the second, I mean, again, it's another deflection. So it's almost unlucky. I think City probably deserved it, but not massively. There was and I think this is the frustrating thing for Newcastle fans is that you're in these games that you're not getting played off the park. Like not like a certain red side from Manchester yesterday, which let's just get this straight out. That was fucking glorious, absolutely glorious. I mean, I'm not Liverpool's biggest fan, but anytime you see Manchester United take an absolute hiding, it's just sensational, and that was so much fun. But that's not happening. That. You're not getting battered. You are hanging in with the sides, and again, it's only 3 defeats in the league, and those 3 defeats have come against Liverpool and Manchester City. So it's not like the end of the world, is not. I think you start to take a couple more chances and confidence grows again. It just genuinely just doesn't look like the ball's going to nest in the back of the net at the moment, and it's just utterly frustrating from obviously from your point of view.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, there's a couple of comments coming in there. Si, make the comment there. Do you think the injuries over the years are starting to take toll? So. I did raise that, Si, as well. I think that there's only so many hits your body can take. Me and Mark were talking about this extensively in the chat, and I did a piece for our website. If you go check it out, it's on our Twitter page there down below. The strikers have to adapt their game sometimes with all these injuries. Shearer did it. Bobby surrounded him with legs with Bellamy. Michael Owen, sorry to swear, did it as well when he lost that searing pace. So there is better players than Callum Wilson, no offense to him, who have adapted their game, because of injuries. So I think he could adapt his game. But I think, Mark, you rightly said, without sounding too harsh, those two are better players than Wilson.
Yeah,
as a footballer, really, aren't they?
Let's say I've probably said it 50 times over the last year. I'm a huge Wilson fan. However, I don't think he's good enough. And hear me out, to do that. I don't think he's good enough to adapt that much his game, because he doesn't get involved in the play. He is your number 9, and that's it. You look at the number of touches he gets in the game; it's minimal. He doesn't get involved in build-up. He doesn't pull deep to, I'm going to label, put him against players that are sort of above his station, but you don't see him drop into an area like Harry Kane and allow the wide players to get in beyond him and play balls through. His passing isn't the best. He doesn't get involved in that side of things. I'm not sure he can adapt. I think he has his style, and he's very good when he's on form. He's very good when he's fit. But outside of that, and you used the word passenger, he absolutely becomes a passenger. When he doesn't score, he doesn't offer you anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just don't think he's good enough to adapt and play a different role, because I just don't think he's got that sort of ability in his locker.
Yeah, I mean, just while we're on the subject of our number 9s, from the current number 9 to a past number 9, I've got to give him a shout out. Massive respect to Dwight Gale for giving it this to the Mackhams when he scored the other day. It was just you said the Man United result was a beautiful result. That was a thing of beauty. Watching Dwight Gale wind them up was just fucking super.
But it was twofold, wasn't it? Because it was Dwight Gale scoring, and it was the what's his face manager.
Alex Neil, yes, the ex-manager coming back and getting back.
So yeah, that was if you take the Newcastle result out of it for you guys, then yeah, it's been pretty good weekends.
That was a nice weekend. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that Isak's obviously Isak definitely has to start. I mean, I think there was a couple of other hits obviously from the weekend. I mean, Dan Burn decided to lose his shit briefly and try and recreate like Rocky 4, where it was Rocky versus Ivan Drago. Mind you, Rocky's grown a couple of inches in this picture, but I mean, this all kind of spurned really from Burn getting a bit pissed off with Jack Grealish. I mean, Jack Grealish, I got my teeth right. What's in this green tea? Jack Grealish was doing his usual Jack Grealish thing, which, to be fair, you know what he does, right? He's an absolute fanny with his socks rolled down around his ankles and his calves out. Every time somebody touched him, he was flopping around like a fucking fish down a fish key. Just an absolute prick, really. It seems a lovely bloke, I'm sure, when he's doing his charity and all that stuff. But on the football pitch, the wind has to blow and he goes down like a sack of shit. Trippier tapped him a couple of times and he was down and all that. Trippier also left a few on him as well, it must be said. But this was, I don't know what happened with Dan Burn. I mean, whether he was just getting pissed off at the way the game was, but did Jack Grealish leave one on Dan Burn? Is that why you reacted that way, mate? I don't quite know what happened with all this.
The foul that sort of led up to it was Dan Burn sort of pulled Jack back. And as he rolled, I think Burn caught him. So Jack reacted. Yeah. Then Burn reacted. And all of a sudden, I think Diaz came across and tried to pull Dan Burn away. And then from about 90 yards away, Ivan Drago, aka, I nearly called him Alvinga Haaland there, Erling Haaland, comes steaming across the field to get in his face. And I think there'd been a bit of needle between the two of them anyway. And I think Haaland was just looking to take on the biggest player possible. He'd already had wrestling matches with Lascelles all day, who, to be fair,
he did all right, Lascelles, didn't he? Right. Yeah, he did all right. Yeah.
I mean, apart from the headlock he got him in about halfway through the second half.
Yeah, I saw that one.
He wrestled him to the floor. He didn't have a bad game, and that was promising, I think, from a Newcastle perspective, that we can come into those big games and not look dreadful. And I think that was the fear. Erling Haaland up against him, it was an accident waiting to happen.
I think Lascelles did quite well, because I think Haaland fancied a bit of a kind of chest to chest with Lascelles, didn't he? Wanted to throw his weight around. Whereas I think if Haaland had just been a bit calm and thought, actually, he's got no fucking pace, he could just knock the ball around him and done him every single time. But because he fancied that shoulder charge against him, Haaland fancied showing that he was the stronger of the two. So I think he kind of played into Lascelles' game plan a little bit there. So Lascelles looked a bit better, probably than he actually was, to be fair.
Although he did get wiped out early on in the game where he sort of went shoulder to shoulder with him, and suddenly Lascelles went, yeah, he's a bit stronger than I possibly anticipated, as he went sprawling. But no, I'll obviously give Jamal some credit. I thought he did. He wasn't exceptional. Right. He wasn't, but he had a very good game. But yeah, the whole Burn Haaland thing came about from a nothing foul, really, and it was just, I think it was just frustration that burnt up from Dan Burn, and then everybody else just piled in. Just not going to let the big guy pick on anyone. So in comes Haaland from a couple of miles off.
I mean, all I could hear was, and I was really hoping somebody would have clipped it on Twitter. All I could hear was the Buzzcocks going, "Yeah, you do that again, I'll kick your fucking head in." That's all I could hear. And I was praying for somebody to do it, but sadly Twitter didn't deliver on that occasion, mate. But yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I thought City beat us quite comfortably without really breaking sweat. We did huff and puff a bit. I think when the three subs came on, we looked really lively. I think obviously Isak, Willock looked really sharp. That was quite a good sign that if Willock can come back and play like that again. Maxi was all right as well. I mean, I think Maxi was unlucky not to start. I felt a bit sorry for Gordon, just before we move on to the other bit. I mean, Gordon, he had some couple of nice touches, knocked the ball inside, tried to do a bit of a give and go, but nobody seemed to read what he was doing. And
no.
I don't know if they can't figure out how Gordon plays yet. I know Howe said he came and he wasn't really sharp. I mean, there's sharp and there's Eddie Howe sharp, isn't there? When he wants you to play with that intensity.
I mean, that's an indictment on Everton for a player who's played much of the season to come in and not be sharp.
In terms of Eddie Howe's standards. Yeah. Well, that's why they're in a shit, mate, isn't it? Really, but I think I felt a little bit sorry for Gordon, because I thought, he was a bit isolated, and they didn't really read his game. He tackled himself. Was that Gordon, Roger? Was it tackled himself? Yeah. Did he? He did.
Well, it was early on when he went to shoot with his left, and he put his right foot and caught the ball and then completely edged. It's exactly what Maxi did last week.
Maybe we should play him left back. But no, I think I did feel a bit sorry for him. I think we'll see much better performances out going. But he wasn't scared to come looking for the ball, which I thought was a good sign in a game like that for a young player. I know he's got a lot of experience, but City have got some brilliant players. I mean, the first goal, Foden does well to wriggle through. I think Burns should do better, to be fair, on the goal. I think his legs are as wide open as Sharon Stone's, when Foden goes round him. And then, like you say, Botman comes across. And again, it's more. I think it's more that Botman's the quickest to react out of all the defenders. And that's why he keeps getting these deflections, because he's the first one to react. If Botman doesn't move for the ball, it's just a shot in the back of the net. Whereas because Botman gets there, this is where we're struggling a bit, I think, with the right-sided centre-half. And I definitely think we'll look at that in the summer. As much as Cher might get a contract extension, I think we'll look at a starting right-sided centre-half, mate, to play alongside Botman. Mark, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think more than anything, Shaw's had so many blows to the head this season.
Mate.
And he does go down an awful lot holding his head. And they're legitimate hits as well. It's not like some sides you see where they go down fainting. He does take some whacks. And
how is he so handsome? He's had that many fucking smacks to the napper. How is he so handsome still? How's his hair stay like that?
He's got a good surgeon. He must have.
He must have Lego hair, just because it just doesn't get moved out of the way, or just loads of gel. Like a crash helmet.
I do think you're right. I think that's going to be an area of need. I think he's knocking on as well, isn't he? Is he 30 now, Fab? Is he 30,
31? He's possibly 31, I think, mate.
So he's on the wrong side. He's still got years left in him, but he's sort of on the wrong side now. He's 31. So you need somebody to come in and partner Botman long term. There are options out there. So I think that
John Stones,
definitely
John Stones. I'd have a stab at John Stones.
Not getting a game for City. He can do a lot worse. He's fallen out of favour a bit at City, hasn't he? And with Akanji and Diaz and Laporte, and they've obviously got Ake, who's playing well. And Ake was one that we thought was going to leave in the summer.
He's back in the picture, isn't he, at the minute, by the looks of it, yeah.
But he's sort of taken on that left back role that was left obviously once Zinchenko, once Cancelo left as well.
Yeah.
So John Stones might be the one that sort of moves on. And tell you what, he's not a bad centre back. He's calm. He's good on the ball. I think he would work well.
Yeah.
He would work well in tandem with Botman. So
is he quick? Andy's saying in the comments we need a quick centre half, athletic centre half. Who springs to mind when you hear those descriptions from Andy? I'll put you on the spot there a little bit, but which centre
quick
half?
Athletic centre half, Sol Campbell. He's still playing.
Fucking hell! Not the Sol Campbell that played for us, by the way.
No, not the Sol Campbell.
Quick as fucking milk turning.
I'm trying to think. Just who is it? I mean, you've been linked with Salisu from Southampton, but he's another left-footed centre back.
Yeah, I don't
think that. I think he would very much be one that would come in if he was going to come in. Would come in and back up Botman. I think Eddie very much likes the right and left-footed combination at the back. So I think you have to be looking at somebody like John Stones. And I think if you read the game well, you don't have to be electric. You don't have to be ridiculously quick, so long as you don't get caught out of position. So it's not. It's not. I mean, look at some of the greatest centre backs of all time have had very, very little pace, but they've read the ball so well.
Yeah.
So if you're blessed with a little bit and a good ability to read the game, then yeah, absolutely. I think I do like John Stones. I do think he's a very good player.
I think he'd be a good shout as well. Champions League experience as well. Obviously England international, everything else. But yeah, I mean, a couple of comments there from Ian and from Les as well, with Indica here as well. Comment there from Alan.
The trouble again with Indica. The trouble is there. He's another left-footed one.
He's left pegger.
So
Eddie doesn't want to do that, does he? Yeah.
No, I think you have to be looking at that
Maguire.
Right foot, left foot.
He's been linked again, isn't he, Maguire? Could Howe get him back? Could Howe get him back to what he wants?
I'm not sure Merlin could get him back into.
Fucking Harry Potter couldn't get Maguire back to what he was, to be fair. Who's that again? That's the kid from Chelsea, wasn't it? Went there from Chelsea.
Fikayo Tomori. Yeah, I mean, he's a right-footed centre-back doing very well.
He did a good shot.
Tell you what, I was going to say short-term option, but you passed shorter-term options. Somebody like, I mean, Smalling.
Sure, there as well.
Tell you what, Gomez makes an awful lot of mistakes, though. And they're usually mistakes that lead to goals. I'll take your word for it. I'd have to watch him to know. I know of him, but I don't know enough about him.
The stat man is defeated. He's defeated. Ian's champion Ibanez as well from Rome. He's a good player as well. He's a very good player. But yeah, I think you've got to hope that Ashworth. There was a comment earlier up from T Philly actually about Ashworth, and I'll just read it out. So Ashworth had said that apparently he's spoken on how it'll take 2 more summer windows before the squad has the required depth for the rigorous full season. And he said teams can only defy their pedigree for so long. Eventually, deeper squads with greater experience will assume, their natural. What's he saying here? Their natural. Let's cut off this comment here. Natural, but imagine just their natural position in the league. I'd imagine is what he's trying to say. I mean, that's a total contrast to what Amanda Staveley was saying when she had a couple of glasses of Pinot, saying we were going to win the fucking World Cup and everything else as well, wasn't she, mate? So I think that backs up what Audie was saying on Wednesday about Ashworth's a bit more calm and reserved, a bit more sensible in these kind of conversations, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, let's just go back to what you've just said. I think you'll struggle to win the World Cup, in all fairness.
It was a joke. It was a joke, man. That's the joke. Mark's having a mare. Mark's dealing with his cat, as always. And T. Felice saying, FIFA players in chat. More like FIFA players in cat with Mark, mate. William's in the house. Good to see you, William. Good to see you. The new monkey's here. We need a striker, definitely. Do you know what? It's interesting going back to that comment there, actually. We did have a comment. We were talking about Wilson. And Stu said there, do you think Isak can be our long-term number 9? I'll take this one. I don't think he will be a proper number 9 because that's not the way he plays. I think he pulls out wide, he finds pockets of space, and he cuts the ball back across. I would actually quite fancy Vlahovic from Juventus for that position, for Wilson's position, because I think he would be a proper number 9. And I think I've just seen that comment there. Fantastic, Ian. Fantastic. He's rapid as fuck, mate. If only it wasn't small, if it was like 6'2", we'd get it in a black and white shirt, mate. But
to be fair, if you got Ten Hag comments, he's annoying as hell as well. So he fits in with the style of play.
He's still taller than Martinez, to be fair. But going back to the striker, I definitely think that Vlahovic would be a good shout because Juventus is skint as well, with the whole Super League thing not happening and all that. They're skint. I think we could get him if we put a decent bidding mark for Vlahovic in the summer window.
I think that's an awful lot of money. I don't think it's not going to be a cheap one.
No.
He cost them 70 odd million, I think.
60,
70 million, something like that. It was a lot of money. It's going to be similar.
Lukaku. We were talking about this the other day. If you get Lukaku fit and firing, right, he's still one of the deadliest strikers in European football. If you get him fit and firing, he is. There's no doubt about that. But yes, he looked like he ate a small child when he came to Chelsea, but you get him a bit trimmer and a bit sharper. He's still a good striker.
My issue with Lukaku though is you have the same problem that you have with Wilson, that he doesn't get involved. He's not going to press. He's not going to get involved in that.
He just wants balls played in him, doesn't he?
He will be a passenger. Now, if he sticks 25 goals in a season, you can forgive him that. But those days are gone. I'm sorry, Lukaku has fallen off the edge of a cliff. He's gone from scoring double figures every season to he's got 10 in his last 39 games. So
I tell you what, if he's fell off the edge of the cliff, Mark, that's some land, and he is a unit. That's going to make some
there's a
fucking
crater,
noise.
It'd
be like Wile E. Coyote, wouldn't it, when he hits the ground, mate? To be fair, but just a couple of more points on the game. I mean, the biggest disappointment I think in the game was Joelinton getting his yellow card, mate. So Joelinton's now suspended. You and the guys will talk a bit more about this on Wednesday night, but I mean that's a big blow, isn't it? I mean, it's great that Willock's back. So maybe Willock just steps in naturally at that midfield with Bruno, Sean, and Willock. But we're going to miss Joelinton now for a couple of games, mate. He's massive, isn't he, Joelinton?
Yeah, I mean,
and literally.
we've got to be honest, though. I mean, who didn't see that coming on Saturday?
Christ,
He's on 9. I think he had to get through to game week 32 to get away with not having the 2-game ban, so he had to go. It's another 6 or 7 weeks without getting a yellow card. It was never going to happen.
No, never.
And he gets it first off. You know, it's just like he's been a terrific player all season. But again, another one who potentially has just gone off the boil slightly over recent weeks. So maybe
he's not had the influencing games. Yeah, he's not had the influencing games that he used to have, has he? But maybe games like Wolves and Forest, that once he dominate those games, Joe. No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. You against those sides, you can. I mean, he's got that physical style of play, doesn't he? And he will bully players, and you will miss that because there's nobody else in that midfield that can do it.
No.
Willock won't do it. Bruno won't do it, and Sean Longstaff won't do it at all. They just don't have the size to be able to. So he will be a miss. But look, you kind of rather have it now than come up, in a few weeks' time. And there's a huge run of games coming up in April. So is it better that he has a bit of a rest now before that run in April?
Potentially,
it might be a blessing.
We've still got enough, in my opinion. If Willock's back and fit with those 3, we've still got enough to win those 2 games with those 3 in midfield, in my opinion. Maybe a change of formation too. There's a couple of guys who smashed the comments, and so might as well bring this one up. So is it goodbye top 4? We've got a couple of comments in here already about Europe and everything else as well. I think Will even said that it's going to be hard to recruit this top talent if we don't have any European football. I mean, taking on the and Ian said as well about the Champions League about Vlahovic. I don't think we're going to finish top 4 now, Mark. I think we've lost that. I think, and as Alan says here as well, do we want Europe this year? A lot of fans are saying we're not ready for the Champions League. Next year is going to be harder. See, this is my point, Alan, as well. I'm on the same page as you, mate. You get seasons sometimes where the usual suspects just fall away. A bit like when Leicester won the league, right? Different set of circumstances. But the way that Man United started this season, piss poorly with Ronaldo and all of disarray. Chelsea off the map. Liverpool completely off their game. There's arguably never a better season for Newcastle to jump ahead of the game and finish in the top 4 2-3 years earlier than all of that investment would potentially have got you. And you haven't got a divine right. I look at Spurs. Spurs invested money left, right, and centre, all this stuff. Didn't get in the Champions League for ages. Arsenal struggled to get back in the Champions League for a long time. So you got no defined right to get in the Champions League. But this season, for me, I just felt the way things were going and the way they were struggling, it was a perfect season for Newcastle to jump ahead of the game and get themselves into the Champions League. But the squad is so thin that you're right. Champions League football, Alan, probably would have stretched us way too thin. But I think the reason that we're falling off the edge of the cliff is we didn't invest enough in January, in my opinion. I think we're 2 or 3 bodies light. And when I say 2 or 3 bodies, I don't mean a reserve team fullback from West Ham. No offense to Harrison Ashby. I mean players that can come in and make a difference. Players that can come in when Bruno's suspended, when Willock's knackered, when Shaw's off his game, or when Miggy's off his game. We needed players that could have come in and were Premier League ready or ready for top level football. We didn't sign them, and I think now it's come back to bite us on the arse a bit. Mark, would you agree? Do you think that this is what's going to cost us top 4 in the end? That thin squad.
I think it was a bit of a dream, wasn't it? The way it was going for everybody to go look at where they're competing, but it shows what the team can do longer term. They've got the ability to compete up there if they've got backup. You said it there, 2 or 3 years ahead of schedule, being in that fight for the top 4. The squad was always going to let them down. I guess with injuries and suspensions, FFP doesn't help. Mike Ashley left the club with no money coming into it, so that was always going to be a problem. If you can get a European place, you can bring in the next tier of players to take over from the squad that you have now. And there's an awful lot of players that will need to be moved on. So there's an awful lot of change in there. I don't think missing out on Champions League is a bad thing. I think you said that. I think they probably struggle to compete at that level unless there was massive investment in the summer. And we think that that's probably likely to happen. Is that the amount that will get spent will be high. However, you've got an awful lot of players that will need to be changed, so that the spend just to get the squad in a competitive state is going to have to, it's going to have to be high at that point. So I think realistically now, if you can turn the tide a little bit now, get a couple of results, that fourth's still on, but it's much further away than it was before. You look at the resurgence of Liverpool now.
They've gone past us now, haven't they? Yeah, they're going to go past us, mate.
Yeah.
The new monkey's saying there, if we're not careful, Brighton and Fulham could overtake us as well. In all fairness, PDK saying he says all season would finish 7th, which I don't disagree. I think 6 or 7 is probably where we're looking at. William saying that we needed 2 or 3 that could have walked in the squad in January. I totally agree, William. I think that's where we fell over. Rogers, with you, the dream is not dead yet. He loves your positivity, Mark. So.
No, it's not dead. They're still in it. We've said this over and over. Newcastle aren't losing games. No. While they're not losing games, yes, they've lost the last couple, but look at the teams that they play them against. If you can start picking up those wins again, and there's almost a kind of weird symmetry to the way that the season has gone so far. And for the first 7 games, you only won 1. In the last 8, you've only won 1. The goals have dried up much more because you've only got 3 goals in the last 8 games. At the start of the season, in that run, it was 8 goals in 7. 3 of those were against Manchester City, though. So it takes that run now. If you put together another run where you go 6 or 7 wins out of 8 or 9, all of a sudden, top 4's probably back on. Spurs are Spursy. We say this every season.
Yeah.
They're as likely to go and batter a team as they are to turn around and get beat 1-0 off Wolves, who aren't a good side.
It's a good comment. Just good comment there, mate. While you're pausing for thought by PDK, that's the difference between not finishing in the top 4. That level of money plus what you could spend, we could just revamp the entire squad, which is exactly what's needed, as Ian says as well. 6 quality players need to come in for progression, mate. You need massive change to this squad.
I think that's right. I think that's 6 quality players plus reserves.
Yeah,
and I agree. Think realistically, if you looked at, because I did this the other day and looked at the transfer market values of some of the reserve players that were potentially you sell out. There's not an awful lot of money in it. I think you're talking about 60, 70 million pounds, and that's just going off the transfer market website. You probably, for some of those players, you might not even get that value because it'll be a case of there's high contracts. You're not going to be able to sell them.
Make it a bag of cheese and onion crisp for Matt Ritchie, possibly, mate.
It'd be lucky.
Monster.
But 6 quality players come into the squad plus a fair number of ones to fill the holes and the gaps. Some younger players to then potentially build on for the future as well, because that's going to be the aim as well. But I agree with. You can't look away from the money that comes in if you qualify for the Champions League, because it's a gold mine. It's why the clubs. It's why they want the guaranteed places in the Champions League. Why they wanted this. This sort of retrospective thing. So if you've done well in the past, you automatically got a place in it. It's why a lot of them, looked at the Super League and went, well, yeah, if we go, it's just guaranteed hundreds and hundreds of millions each season. You don't look past that. But I go back to what I said before. I think the timing would be wrong. I think there's too much to do in the squad to compete in it, and maybe it would be a lesser where you get one season, get knocked out, and then you spend another couple of seasons where you have to rebuild. So I don't know. I've kind of got my thoughts all over the place in this because I think Europa is probably the place that you end up. I don't think you drop behind Fulham. I don't think you drop behind Brighton unless, I mean, Brighton are probably the more likely of the two to get past you. Brentford are there too, and Brentford won tonight again against Fulham. So there's lots of teams in and around that would, that could jump ahead. But I just think you get a couple of good results. You play these next two. If you get 6 points from that, suddenly the confidence is back, and then you can start and push back and go, right, we're gonna keep this European spot. Then you get more money from the Europa League. Then you can go and build again. You take all of that, you take the more commercial revenue that comes in across next season, and then push on the next transfer window. As Dan Ashworth says, that's the second year to go in and build for a Champions League challenging squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly work that needs to be done, mate. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose moving on slightly to something else that's been in the news is the takeover under the microscope again. If anyone hadn't seen my little rant video about a certain Mirror journalist talking about the takeover, it is about the channel. Feel free, just don't watch it around your children. There'll be a few swears in there, but there's the takeover's under the microscope again, apparently. Because the PIF are struggling to show separation between the Saudi state and the PIF, which was exactly what the Premier League were assured of. That apparently what was the case. So I'm not sure this is going to really do anything. In all fairness, I just think that Craig Hope has already said. I think that it's much to do about nothing really. That he can't really see anything happening with regards to that, and I don't think much will happen about it. Like I said in my rant, and thank you very much, Roger. I'm glad you enjoyed the rant. But as I said in the rant, I don't think that the Premier League wants to knock away massive amounts of cash that the PIF has brought to the Premier League. Because let's be honest, Mark, the Premier League, they're all about money. They're not about morals or integrity. The money that's been in the Premier League has reeked to high heavens for years and years. The Saudi Arabians are nothing new to the Premier League. Their money is questionable. Their wealth and the morals and their ethics, of course, are questionable. And Newcastle fans can question that. That's fine. Other fans can choose to try to plead ignorance to it, and that's fine as well. But the money in the Premier League has not came from Mother Teresa, put it that fucking way, for years, mate. And I can't see the Premier League doing anything about this one.
Well, the Premier League was created for one reason and one reason only, and that was to make more and more money. So look at the owners that have been in there before. I mean, Abramovich is absolutely no saint. He's now gone. Obviously for other sort of reasons, and you don't have the same question marks about some of the other owners either. There wasn't this. It frustrates us. I get some of the comments. I do that you can't get away from the human rights things and stuff like that. But look, this is a football club we're talking about. The note that was put out pre-game about how bad Eddie Howe hadn't referenced it in his in his letter. No, because that was his pre-match one in the program for the cup final. He's not going to start talking about that sort of thing and that. And let's be fair, he's not the right person to be questioning about it. He's the manager of a football club. He's not a political expert. He's not a Middle Eastern expert. He's not a human rights expert. He's a football expert. He's employed to do a job and to manage a football team, and we said this at the very beginning. He's employed to do that job, and that's it. He is absolutely the wrong person to keep firing those questions at, because you're just not going to get an answer from him, because he shouldn't have to answer those questions. We know it's going to come up. You can't stop those questions being asked, but he's not the right person to answer them.
No, absolutely not, man. I think he handles it very, very well. Does Eddie Howe, as and when those questions do come. There hasn't been as many of them, I think, in recent months. Certainly not when we were doing well. But I think of late, obviously, with this story coming back out into the wash, people will ask him again. It will come up again. And certainly with us not doing very well either, I think it will come up again in press conferences. And I'm sure he'll handle it well. He's got Dan Ashworth there now who can handle it and handle it extremely well. But it's going back to the whole Dunn article and everything else. I mean, none of these owners have got like I say, whenever they meet their maker, I'm pretty sure they're going to read their book and go, "Ooh, there's some bad shit in here, guys." They're not exactly the nicest people on the planet. Let's be honest. They haven't got to where they've got in their lives and financially without doing a few bad things. So I think to play the moralistic, high ground with a lot of these owners is a little bit rich. I mean, if you remember years ago, there wasn't as much scrutiny on the City deal as there has been on ours because the world of social media wasn't what it was and everything else. There wasn't so much news online to be consumed as there has been now. So our takeover was there for everybody to see and everybody to comment on, everybody to pull up articles, about Khashoggi and all this other stuff as well. So there was so many people to throw that in there. But when the City takeover happened, that wasn't there. People weren't talking about, Sheikh Mansour and all the dodgy dealings that he did and everything else. And City over the years have become, the media's favourite team, Mark, haven't they? So they've got to the point now where they don't question where their money comes from anymore. They just admit the fact that they've got loads of it.
Well, the fact that they're not going to sit and ask Pep Guardiola those questions. He's not. They know he's not going to answer. And the same should go, as I said, for Eddie Howe. It shouldn't. It's not up to him. I get there's an element of you say, well, it is your employers, you are working for them, but unless you're versed in all of that, it's not down to you. And you're right, there isn't the same level of scrutiny. We saw that from, I can't remember I'd call him a journalist, but that's being really kind to him. Who's the one that
Oliver Holt?
That's the one. See, he's so
Oliver
meaningless
Holt.
to us. I forgot about him. He. You see the vitriol that sort of comes from him. It wasn't there for City owners. It wasn't there for others that have had had investment from that part of the world. So it's just, it seems like Newcastle are an easy target, and I sort of get that because of who the owners. There is a close link because it's PIF, and obviously that. Is it Rumayyan who's been named in a legal document as being a member of the governing part or government or whatever? So I get the question marks around it, but nothing's going to happen. We'll go back to the previous point, and it's about 10 minutes of us getting round to the point of just going. The Premier League aren't going to do an awful lot about it because they know the money's going to roll in. So it's one of those things, and. Yeah, I think that one needs to. You can question the country, you can question him, but leave Eddie out of it now because he's like I say, it's the wrong door to be banging on.
No, absolutely not. As PDK said in the comments as well, they need to be vetted a lot better. In the press conferences, BT says there the press officer will be the one who's handled that as well. But it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is if the Qataris buy Man United. Because I doubt there'll be as much, vitriolic, outrage, in the media. Certainly not by the likes of, Holt and people like that. He'll certainly keep that reserved, much like he did when he was wined and dined for the Anthony Joshua fight over in Saudi Arabia. He didn't moan about it then, did he? Do you know what I mean?
He fails to mention that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he did. And again, this is the beauty of the internet. People have got long memories, and people will remember this. Oliver Holt. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that this will be much to do about nothing. As Lee rightly says there very succinctly, the media is full of crap. Hence why you have fan channels like us, Lee, to consume your Newcastle United content. So
just go back. I think you've answered it in the chat. It was it Marcelo was put in who's scored the last goal. It was Almiron against
Almiron
against
Sorry,
Bournemouth.
Almiron
against Bournemouth. Wilson against West Ham. Isak scored against
Fulham game.
Fulham. I'm trying to look this up as I speak. Yeah, Fulham. He scored the winner against Fulham. Wilson was in the 1-1 against West Ham, and Almiron was the 1-1 against
the one against Bournemouth. My bad, Marcelo. I knew I should let the stat man answer that one, mate. What am I talking about? I'm just the gobshite, mate. I'm just the gobshite. Onto some good news. Never mind all this talk about takeovers and stuff. Onto some good news. So one of our players has won an award, even though he couldn't win the Carabao Cup. Bruno, congratulations to Bruno, Mark. Bruno has been named the Football Writers, Northeast Football Writers Player of the Year. Previous winners have been the likes of Kevin Keegan and Alan Shearer. He's an esteemed company, Bruno. He spoke very well. Look at him looking all smart there. And it's touched with a big grin in his face. Well deserved, mate, isn't it? Definitely our best player by a country mile.
I think it's difficult to argue any other player, really. I think possibly Trippier.
Maybe Chris Wood was unlucky, mate. Chris Wood was unlucky not to get it, I think, in all fairness, mate. Sorry. I thought you said shite player of the year. Sorry, mate. Not Writers player of the year.
To be fair, it was a toss-up between Wood and Shelby, I think, were the two. But no, it's yeah, absolutely well.
That's not a quick toss-up, that, mate. Fucking Wood and Shelby. See mopeds go quicker, mate.
Jesus. No, look, it's absolutely well deserved. He's been magnificent since he signed. Look, and he's still what? He's 25, 20 years ahead of him to get better.
But there has been a little bit of naughtiness though as well. There is a hopefully a rant video coming up quite soon about a certain Manchester-based manager salivating over our Brazilian superstar. I won't step on the lines of the video, but yes, we're quite adamant in our message to that water cooling sitting motherfucker. Enough said, really. See, I said motherfucker.
I'm going to say
right at the end of the video.
Don't do it in the first 12 seconds of it again. Actually, funny enough, it's the only time I've ever had to invoke a bleep machine for you.
Brilliant.
It was
that's how
opening line of you.
Yeah, I think Roger mentioned about the rant video. Was that the which one was that one? The rant video when I said it straight away. Was it? What was that one? Oh, Simon Jordan. Simon
Jordan. That's it.
Yeah. So I can say this because we're nearly an hour in. But I did my little rant video on Simon Jordan, and I think within the first 3 words of what I said motherfucker, and it's the first time Mark messaged me and just went, "Yeah, I'm bleeping that," and that was pretty much it. So there you go.
It did make me laugh though.
Yeah, he couldn't do it for the whole thing, Ian. It would have just been bleeps for the whole thing. Would have sounded like a fitness test if it had just been him bleeping me the entire video. So.
Oh, I thought is that? Hang on, is that actually true? Did it not work? I didn't actually go back and check it afterwards when it went live. So I probably.
I think that's the best thing I've heard all night.
And then I'd put the bleep over the top of it, just double whammy, just to make sure. And on what I produced it looked all right. So after I've uploaded it, God knows. So there you go. I haven't actually watched it back.
Yeah. Great comment there from Lee. Yeah, I often refer to him as Turkish teeth, old clippity clop. You can have a sugar cube and get fucked, Lee. I'm not a big fan of him. Twat that he is. He says you could hear it through the bleep. That's how bad it was. I love it.
Oh.
Absolutely class. Absolutely.
Well, I've messed up. There you go. So that's what to look out for.
I think it's class. Just a point Roger's making there as well. I've got to give Bruno his due, mate. You're right. His English is brilliant. His English has come on so well. You look at some players and they can't speak English. Who was that player who'd been here for like 8 years and couldn't speak English? I can't remember who it was.
Wayne Rooney? Any number of Scousers?
Mate, that's pretty hell, Mark. You've outdone yourself with that line, mate. I love that. But there was a player who'd been here for so long and he couldn't speak English. And it was really bad. I can't remember. I'm sure he was a Chelsea player. I want to say he was a Chelsea player. He couldn't speak a word of English. He'd been here for so long. whereas Bruno, is fluent now, really, isn't he? To be fair, like he's learned the language so well. I can't remember who. It wasn't Peter Beardsley. It wasn't Peter Beardsley.
Obviously. I'm racking my brains now as to who it could be.
Who was that player? He'd been here for years and he couldn't speak. It wasn't Tevez. Was it Tevez? Might have been Tevez. Tevez had been here for fucking years. No, but I'm just thinking players who've been here for years and couldn't speak English, though. It might have been Tevez, Might have been Tevez. Great shout. He spoke bollocks. He had a PhD in bollocks, mate, is what it was. A comment there as well saying that Newcastle should buy a sixth defensive midfielder. Yeah, Bruno plays number 8. Great shout, mate. I think we've already said Bruno's a bit of a hybrid midfielder. You can do both positions. But I think there was talk about that, Mark, wasn't there? We'll probably cover it in a rumour has it. I think where apparently there's been links. I think Football Insider, believe that if you will. Saying that we're going to revamp the midfield, and they said James Maddison, which I said, oh yeah, get in, and then they said Scott McTominay, and I just went, yeah. I thought, fucking hell, Scott McTominay, that's pulled me right back down as that. But I don't know whether he'd be a good player or not, mate. I can't tell.
Do you know what? He's not a bad player, and I think in the right side where he's got a specific role to play, I think he can do it. I think he's very much in that Sean Longstaff level. I think
is he any better than Longstaff? Though, is the question, though.
Maybe. I don't know. I think they're very, very similar sort of players. They can get forward a bit. They're not particularly defensive minded. He's not going to come in and sit. He's not going to come in and be he's not a Makelele type. He's not going to come and protect the back four like a Rodri or somebody like that. He's going to want to get forward to the edge of the box and play in that sort of role. So I don't think he's the right. I guess it depends on what you want to do. If he's coming in as part of the squad, then that sort of makes sense because you can then interchange those players. If you want to change a little bit of the formation and go to maybe a 4-2-3-1 and play with two of those sort of defensive-minded players, that you have Bruno alongside somebody that is going to be that sitter and the one that will drop into the back line to allow the fullbacks to get forward. We talked about this the other week. I think that's the better option is getting somebody like that, and then that allows Bruno to just roam and be the playmaker rather than having to play two different roles.
Yeah, I think it was Tevez. I'm just looking there. I think it was Tevez who couldn't speak English. I'm sure it was. I just googled some players there. I'm pretty sure it was Tevez who couldn't speak English, which I was quite surprised at, given the fact he was at West Ham, Man United, then City for years, and he couldn't speak English, or just couldn't be asked to speak English. Just that comment there from PDK. I don't think Joelinton's got the discipline to play DM. I might be wrong. I think he was just going too many mazy runs, beasting up the pitch, and then leaving us short potentially.
Yeah, I've kind of said this because we've had this in our chat as well, where people have said, drop Joe into the middle, into sitting. I don't think he's got the patience to do it.
I'm not fucking sure. Red cards galore as well, wouldn't he?
But also, I don't think his passing ability is right for that position either. He's a much better box-to-box sort of player.
That's a good show.
Play in the midfield. Yeah, we've said that for a while now. Alvarez is
that one as well. And both of
never to play his long balls. Yeah, that's also a good one.
We don't like long balls. No. We love long balls at Newcastle United. Apparently, yes. Yeah. Fuck Neves. Yeah.
What was the stat for that game again? What was it? Not that Wolves played more long balls than Newcastle in that game as well. So yeah, that's honestly. There were two, I think, from Holland. I think was it Alvarez was one.
It was a young boy from PSV, wasn't it? The Dialog.
PSV, who's a big fan of him. Excellent. So I think he'd be one. There's a few. I mean, you go around, there's plenty of knocking around.
This has been quite a contentious thing that John's pulled up here. Maybe get stuck in a bit more possibly on Wednesday. But what do you think of the idea that owners buying a Brazilian club? I'm all for it. I think it'd be a fantastic conveyor belt of talent, to be honest with you. I think, European clubs have been pilfering Brazilian talent for years. So if the PIF bought a Brazilian feeder club and you could dip into that, then why not? I think that's smart business, market. I mean, don't Man United own Anderlecht or something like that, or have a link with Anderlecht? I'm sure that for years that's always been the case.
This was part of the Andy Dunn thing, wasn't it? About wanting to like the brand and having
pissed
clubs
off about
being part of, having part of clubs around the world of. This is business. This is what they're doing to bring in those players and have an outlet as well to send players to get experience. If you've got 2 or 3 clubs, especially if you've got a Brazilian club, you're not going to get work permits easily for some of those players. So if you can then move the player, say, to Spain or Portugal or somewhere where they don't have the same work permit rules, that they can get experience, play lots of games, get into the national side, it makes it easy then to get the roundabout route to get into Newcastle and play games. And that makes perfect sense in that regard, because that's the way to do it. You're not just going to be able to pick up 18, 19-year-old Brazilians at a whim from a club that you've got an investment in and just bring them to the club, unless they've got like European passports. And even then, that's obviously with the way things are now, that's not as easy as it once was. But if you've got, some like a team in France, I think who was the one that was mentioned? Dijon was.
Yeah, Sean said that in the comments. Yeah, Dijon. Dijon was the one that.
So if a team that plays in maybe Ligue 1, maybe Ligue 2, that you can then bring some of those players across, put them in European football, get their work permit for playing lots of games in Europe, and then potentially getting into the national side. It's not a bad business sense, and it does mean that you jump the gun on some of those players ahead of the likes of Real and Barcelona.
Yeah. You could end up with the next Neymar, you never know. I'm really glad that you put players in this comment, Lee, because that could have been a total different comment altogether. That mate could bring some young Brazilian in the club as a flashback to some kind of night in Whitley Bay, mate, back in years gone by. That young Brazilians in the club. We'll finish on this comment, mate, because this is definitely up your street, Mark.
Yeah.
David said, anybody else tired of inverted wingers? Yes. I want to see crosses come to the box. Mark, come on, you can have the final word on this. I know it drives you fucking mad.
Look, right. And this kind of goes back to the Callum Wilson thing. You've got a centre forward who likes to get on the end of the balls into the box, put a ball in the box. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. If you're not willing to feed him, he's not going to score. And I think this sort of backs up Callum Wilson a little bit. And I've kind of suggested that you should move on from him for kind of probably the remainder of the season. But look, and the other part of this is just change things. Doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's not working. And it's the old saying of it, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Newcastle, to want of a better way of putting it, have been a little bit found out in that regard. We know what's going to happen when Miggy gets the ball. We've said this 1,000 times. You know pretty much what's going to happen down the left-hand side. Now, there's a little bit different with Gordon in there, but just swap them over. Get Miggy down the left and get him to put a ball in the box. Get Maxi down the right and get him to put a ball in the box. We've seen it when he's played on that right-hand side, that he can put a decent cross in, and invariably Wilson's in and around the area to put the ball in the back of the net. Was it the West Ham game that he did that? He gets across his man, Miggy gets through, puts the ball in from the right, and Wilson's there to tuck it away. Just do something different to try and change your look in front of goal. Yeah. Just playing the same way is not working. And inverted wingers, when it doesn't work, it looks awful because it gives you so little. It doesn't give you any variation in the way that you play.
No. We'll maybe get stuck in a little bit more of that on Wednesday, where you guys will, because I won't be here, because I will probably be driving in the snow. Hopefully not. No, my luck, it'll be fucking 8 inches thick probably when I'm driving back from my my ventures further down the country. But I think that's us pretty much wrapped up for tonight, guys. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments. Always helps the episode flow. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the start, if you're just checking us out for the first time, good to see you on board. Smash that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on nearly, I think, 2,550 something mark, or I'm trying to remember where we are now, but I don't know exactly, but we're around about there. But smash the button, come and help us get to 3,000. And if you can, please like the video. I'll tell you at the end, not at the start, because I'm not as presumptuous and as thirsty as the stat man in the corner there who wants you to like it before he's even said anything. So yes, but you know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, help it get around YouTube. We're going to get ourselves to bed now. You have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next Evermore. See you later, guys.
Take care, guys. See you.